This is Seeking the Word. This is a project where I'm reading through the Bible from beginning to end, trying to understand what the text says as I move through it. In this episode, we're looking at Genesis 11, verses 1 through 9. The purpose of this project is simply to read the passage carefully, observe what the text says, and spend a few minutes reflecting on it before continuing through the next part of the Bible. The whole of the earth was of one language and one speech. As they traveled from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they lived there. They said to one another, "Come, let us make bricks and burn them thoroughly." They had brick for stone, and they used tar for mortar. They said, "Come, let us build ourselves a city, and a tower whose top reaches the sky, and let's make ourselves a name, lest we be scattered abroad on the surface of the whole earth." Yahweh came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men built. Yahweh said, "Behold, they are one people, and they have all one language, and this is what they begin to do. Now nothing will be withheld from them which they intend to do. Come, let's go down, and there confuse their language, that they may not understand one another's speech." So Yahweh scattered them abroad from there on the surface of all the earth. They stopped building the city. Therefore its name was called Babel, because there Yahweh confused the language of all earth. From there Yahweh scattered them abroad on the surface of all the earth. The passage opens by emphasizing that the whole earth shares one language and one speech, establishing a picture of complete unity among the people at the start of the narrative. Two collective statements appear in the passage using the phrase, "Come, let's." The first occurs when the people speak to one another while planning their construction, and the second appears later when Yahweh speaks about confusing their language. The text briefly pauses to describe the materials used in construction, noting the builders used brick and tar instead of stone and mortar. The narrative perspective shifts midway through the passage from the actions of the people to Yahweh observing the city and towers they are building. The passage concludes with the naming explanation, connecting the name Babel with confusion of language and the scattering of people across the earth. When I read the passage, the opening line immediately stands out to me. The whole earth was of one language and one speech. Coming right after the genealogy in the previous chapter, where the different nations and languages were listed, it almost feels like the narrative stepping back in time a little, like it's showing us something that happened before that spread took place. Another thing I notice is how the passage keeps referring to the people collectively as they. It gives the impression that humanity is acting together as one group. Because of that, I found myself wondering whether this place might have functioned as some kind of central gathering point before people eventually spread out into the different regions. The reasons the people give for building the city and tower are also interesting. They say that they want to make a name for themselves, and they say they don't want to be scattered across the earth. That made me think about how something like a city and a tower could become a kind of symbol, something visible, something memorable, a shared achievement that represents the people who built it. Another line that made me stop and think is the statement in verse 6, "Now nothing will be withheld from them which they intend to do." At first, that line surprised me a little. It feels natural to assume that a creator would want humanity to succeed in what they set out to accomplish. But reading it again made me wonder whether the concern in the passage might be about what humanity might attempt if they remain completely unified. The outcome of the story, the confusion of language and the scattering of people across the earth, then seems to follow that. If suddenly people can't understand each other, that unity breaks apart. Groups will naturally separate and move in different directions. Looking back at Genesis 10, this story almost feels like a closer look at something that led to the spread of different nations and languages described in that genealogy. That's where the passage leaves us for now. We'll continue moving through Genesis in the next episode. And this is Seeking the Word.